Yeah. Who doesn't know that we've got a show at 10 o'clock? Sorry, I took that phone call. You and me. Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. And maybe we'll have like a 2-minute show. Maybe we'll have like a 20-hour show. That is up to you guys. So we will obviously look at week, whatever we're in, and the games coming up on a Saturday. Most important thing I will say tonight. Hopefully that wakes somebody up. We might as well do that right out of the gate. The Amazon link's in the description section of the video. When you shop on Amazon, please use the link that we provide. Someday when I'm no longer here, I'm going to put a slate up. I'm going to leave the channel running, but I'm going to put a slate up that says, you didn't shop on Amazon using our link. That's what I'm going to do. That's going to be, and I'm just going to let it roll forever, which I don't really anticipate that anyone's going to care. I get that. If we shut down our show, there's plenty of other great shows out there. I'm sure I can't name one, but I'm just kidding. There are other great shows out there. So we do appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. All right. The link's in the chat. Give me a call. Because for as much as I used to just get on here and talk for hours and hours, and did live streams with no call-in show. First, we did a live stream, for a long time with no call-in. And I would just sit here and talk for 3 hours and not shut up about college football. Don't think I can do that anymore. Well, I could. And then we implemented the call-in portion of it, and we just took the calls right over the old iPhone. Some of you remember that, probably none that are watching anymore. But that was our most successful run, even though we had the most antiquated call-in system you could ever imagine. People just call direct right to the iPhone. I just hold the iPhone up to the mic. That was it. And people seem to enjoy it. And then we got our big call-in system, our audio board that I've long since put away. And we did that for a few years. And then we had issues with the audio board, and I moved, and we never had a call-in system after that, but we had this big StreamYard link that we could do. And so we resorted to that, and I'm sure you all care. All right, Karen's here. DDR 256 is here. Jackson, thank you for being here at the Voice of College Football. And Jim, and David Sobel, Tukey G, listening and taking the kids trick-or-treating. I don't know where you're located, Tukey G. I think you're there in the Midwest. You going trick-or-treating at 10:15 at night? And again, sorry I'm late. I did have to take a phone call there. And for as much as I didn't enjoy the phone call, I'm glad that I took it, because we did clear something up for tomorrow. Yes, we did. Kevin's here. Good to see you. I was actually thinking that the wait was because Mark was putting on his finishing touches on his Halloween outfit. E. Gibson, you don't know me very well. You've been watching a while, but you don't know me very well. The last time I wore a Halloween costume, I don't remember even going to Halloween parties. I was somewhat invited to a Halloween party last weekend, but I believe that the person asking me could tell very early in the conversation that I didn't want to go to the Halloween party, so they didn't fully invite me, although they were on their way to inviting me. I got nothing against Halloween parties, but it has always been my least favorite. It's not a holiday. What do we call it? It's not a holiday. Nobody has the day off. It's not a holiday. I don't know what it is. It's some type of celebration that can go anywhere from, there are people out there having a good time and a great time doing all sorts of things that are fine and dandy. And then it goes from that end of the spectrum all the way to the opposite end of the spectrum, where there are some dark and demonic things going on. across the world tonight. So it ranges all over the place. Look up the origins of Halloween sometime. All right, we're here to talk college football, I do believe. Yes, I do believe. Rob's calling in. Let's take the call from Rob. Rob, what's going on tonight?
Hey, Mark, doing good. Just got off work. Excited about tomorrow. It's going to be a good day of college football, I think.
I believe so, too. I do. I hope.
Yeah, and one of the things that is interesting to me is, you look at some of the teams that are in the top 10, and I was actually watching Josh Pate earlier, and he was making some good points about, he's got Tennessee like not even in the top 20 because he's, talking about their strength of wins. He says, yeah, they got 2 good losses, but their strength of wins. Now, this isn't his power rating of like who would win on a neutral field. It's just their deserved rank, right? Like where they're placed. So
I don't totally know what that means, but I've never seen his ranking. So I guess, does that mean like it's a strictly resume ranking, or he believes teams are the best teams?
Yeah, basically his resume ranking.
Okay.
Because I think what he thinks are the best teams, that's what he'll call his power ranking. Like who's going to win on a neutral field, who would Vegas favor, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so he's got Tennessee out of the top 20. They're like, I think he had them like 21 or something like that. And I can't really disagree with that.
I've got him 19.
Yeah, and that's
Okay.
And I think both of your guys' rankings are very, like, you could interchange them, right? 19, 21, whatever it is. It's basically a coin flip or a hair, And he's got Notre Dame, I think, at like 14, and I'm okay with that because, like I said, if we're just talking about resume deservedness, who deserves to be ranked somewhere, like, yeah, Notre Dame, like Tennessee, they have 2 good losses, but who have they? I mean, USC is a good win, but that's like their only good win so far. Now, I will say he has Iowa ranked, and he's got Washington ranked. And he's supposed to be this Big Ten hater, SEC, fanboy. So I thought that was pretty cool. I think those are 2 teams that the AP has completely whiffed on. Iowa's been playing very good football. They almost beat Indiana, which is more than most teams can say. Oregon. Yeah, I mean, Washington, they've looked pretty good besides, getting kind of dominated by Michigan there. So those are a couple of good teams there. And yeah, I mean, it's just interesting to see. I hope, and he's got Navy. I think he has Navy at like some ridiculously high number. I think they're like 18 or 17. And I don't disagree that they should be ranked, because I do think if you're undefeated at this point in the year, regardless of if you're playing, maybe not quite to the level of like the other conferences, like Navy is still a pretty good team. Like they can play with the power teams, even if they can't beat them a lot of the time. I'm not saying Navy's going to be a playoff team or any of that stuff, but I do think like the AP is probably overlooking Navy a little bit. But as a Notre Dame fan, I'll say this. The team that I fear the most down the stretch is Pitt. That team, the way they've been playing ever since they changed the quarterback, has been playing pretty lights out.
Yeah, he's a good player. And I know they took out Florida State, obviously. And yeah, they're notching some wins against not the best competition. Now back to Navy. Yeah, I would like to honor the wins. So I have a certain level of respect for anyone that wants to honor the wins, regardless of who they're playing. But I don't even consider ranking Navy. They have played no one.
You're not wrong.
I'm sorry, what's that?
I said you're not wrong.
Yeah, so I would rank Minnesota above Navy. Like, they've lost to Ohio State, they've lost to Iowa, they've lost to a 5-3 Cal team. Okay, Minnesota, I just grabbed a team out of thin air. I don't know that I would go to that stretch, but basically Minnesota's beaten better teams than Navy. So, like, it's not Navy's fault. Like, it's not the players or the coach's fault who they play, but they just simply haven't played anyone. So it reminds me of Liberty a few years ago, the last year of the 4-team playoff. They went 13-0. SMU was 11-2, played in the American Conference, played 2 close games against 2 power conference teams. Those were their 2 losses. Played in a far better league. The American against Navy at the time was playing an independent schedule. That was before they switched into the American. Or I'm sorry, Liberty was obviously not in the American. And the committee chose Liberty to represent the G5 in the BCS bowls and the New Year's Six bowls. And I just didn't get it. Like they had played their schedule was atrocious, like incredibly awful. And so being 13-0, I don't know what that really proves when you're playing consistently like the 80th best team in the country.
Yeah, I don't usually do this to you, Mark, but can you pull up Navy's schedule? I would do it at home, but I'm actually driving at the moment, so.
Yeah, and I cannot tell you off the top of my head exactly who they've played other than their non-conference has been nothing until, of course, they play Notre Dame, but to date. So here we go with Navy's schedule. There's always things getting in the way. And then it shifted on me. Yeah. Navy has played VMI, UAB, Tulsa, Rice, Air Force, Temple might be the best team they've played, FAU. That's who they've played.
Yeah, not exactly a gauntlet.
They should not be ranked. Like, I wouldn't rank them in the top 40. I just don't know how you justify that. Like, what is this proving? Rutgers would be undefeated right now. Pick out all sorts of teams. Purdue would be undefeated against that schedule. What is this proving?
Yeah, I'm not saying they should be ranked at the moment, but I am interested to see how at the time that we're having this discussion. But it's going to be interesting to see how they play Notre Dame because if you remember last year, the score was pretty lopsided in that Notre Dame Navy game, but a lot of that had to do with just the fact that Navy was just giving the ball to Notre Dame left and right. I mean, they could not get out of their own way. Fumbles and interceptions. Now, obviously, you get credit for interceptions, but I think they had like 3 fumbles, maybe 4. I mean, it was ridiculous. I mean, a lot of those were coming off their quarterback. So was Blake Horvath? I think he's still the quarterback this year.
Yes.
So it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see how they play Notre Dame this year because they're when you run the triple option or any kind of like goofy offenses like that, it's not exactly easy to prep for unless you play that all the time, which Notre Dame has the benefit since they're technically a rival with Navy. They play them every year, so they're not exactly surprised by their offense. But I think Navy's going to play a better game this year than they did last year because last year they were awful. Like offensively, they were just terrible. I'm not saying they're going to win against Notre Dame or anything like that, but I think they're a pretty good team that is getting overlooked. I'm not saying they should be ranked. I kind of agree with you. Their strength of schedule is awful, but I think they're a better team than a lot of people are giving them credit for.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't argue that or support it, and I would argue against anyone who says that they could argue or support it just because they haven't played anyone. So they beat Temple by 1 point. They're beating FAU by 10 points. Like these teams they beat Air Force by a field goal. They beat Rice by 1 score. Any good team, any decent team across the country would bury these teams. Like if they play Notre Dame close, I still probably won't rank them. Now, if they follow that up against USF and win the game in any fashion, then I would probably rank them because I'd think, okay, they played the top 10, a top 10 team in the country. And I would not have an issue with somebody out there ranking Navy because that would justify all those wins against bad teams by saying they could play a reasonably competitive game against one of the 10 best teams in the country. So let's now rank them. That justifies what they've done before. I don't know that I would take it to that level because, again, you're ranking them against teams that play 5, 6, 7 good opponents, and they've played one. Now, if they follow that up and they beat USF, then I can almost guarantee that I would rank them at that point. They play Notre Dame within 2 scores and beat USF, and they're most likely ranked by me, the way I look at it.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're right. I don't think they're going to play Notre Dame within 2 scores, to be honest, but I do think, because that's a funny thing. It seems like every time Navy has a quote-unquote good team, Notre Dame just trounces them. It's the funny thing is, at least in the Brian Kelly days, when Navy had like a bad team or a mid team, that's when Notre Dame would struggle. But when they had a good team, they'd stomp Navy. So the only thing I dread about, as a Notre Dame fan, that Navy game is that they are like, they will chop block you into oblivion. Like, there are so many chop blocks when you play Navy, it's absurd. So not looking forward to that. I hope Notre Dame, like a lot of teams at this point, is already banged up enough. I don't think we need any more injuries, especially on the offensive line. We lost Billy Schrouth. He's going to probably still be out for another couple weeks at least. Just and I will say that the backups have been playing in that USC game. They played very well, but I don't know. I'm just tired of injuries, and it's that time of the year where you go on these runs. You need all men on deck. You need as many healthy players as you can, because obviously, as Ohio State and many of the top teams in the country know, you're not playing a 12-game season. You're trying to play a 16-game season. So you got to try to reserve. You have to try to keep your players healthy. So it's kind of a battle of attrition these days, Mark. I mean, it's always been, but especially now with the 16-game, college football playoff, it's really a battle of attrition. And it's like whoever the best team, while also being the healthiest team at the end of the year, is probably going to be the one hoisting the championship.
Especially along the lines.
Yeah. Yep. So are there any games that you're really excited for tomorrow besides, your own?
Boy.
Yeah.
I have given this no. I would have to strain and think about. I did pick the games this afternoon, so I should be remembering who's playing. The games that I want to see, besides, I still think there's a chance Penn State could give Ohio State some trouble. I'm trying to think who's playing. Nothing's come to mind. Oh, here's a game I want to see: Texas and Vanderbilt. I want to see them play. Very curious to watch that game in Austin.
Isn't Texas a 2.5-point favorite or something like that?
Yeah, they are. They're at home.
I mean, they have more talent. I mean, they should win that game by multiple touchdowns, but who knows? I'm just if we're talking about just the talent on the teams, Texas is far more talented than Vandy, but that obviously doesn't always equate to wins. Especially when we don't even know if Arch is going to play yet, I don't think.
Yeah, Vegas is basically considering these two teams to be equals.
Right.
And based on how they performed, and then you throw in the talent quotient, sure, I can go along with that. I think Vandy's played a more consistent season. I don't think that's arguable.
Right.
Vandy has played basically a complete season aside from a bad second half against Alabama. And it wasn't like a horrible, got blown away second half, but Alabama separated from them in the second half. Otherwise, they've played a clean season, really good against everybody. And obviously, Texas got outplayed by Kentucky. And that Florida game was a bad game. They got outplayed by Florida. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think Vandy's got the far more respectable season. I mean, it's not even close, right? Because the expectations for Vandy were not, to repeat this kind of magical run from last year. They've even upped it from last year, whereas Texas has just kind of fallen off the. I mean, they haven't fallen off the rails. They're not like Penn State, but they've fallen off pretty hard. So
USC and Nebraska, I want to see that game.
Yeah. Honestly, those are the two games that I was thinking too, Mark, because we're going to find out everything we need to know about USC when they play Nebraska.
Yeah, so we run through the schedule here. Yeah, I want to point out kind of playoff elimination type games, and that's one of them for sure. That's a definite win and you advance, lose and you're done.
Yeah, you got to have it.
Yeah, those two have to have it.
And Texas, if they want any hope at all, like actually, if they beat Vanderbilt, that's a nice little feather in their cap. The way Vandy's season's been, so that would help Texas get back on track. Not that I think they're making the playoffs, but I mean that would give them at least a sliver of hope. So,
and you brought up Tennessee earlier, and I wanted to get back to this because Corey Bratta sent me something that showed. He did not devise this himself, but he was posting from somebody else's account. Tennessee's 4 or whatever the number power conference wins. If you add up all of Tennessee's power conference wins, those teams are 1-17 in conference play.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why their wins are not. They don't really have a good win, So
they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, the losses. The Alabama loss is really not a good one. They got pretty well manhandled, but it was on the road and it wasn't a blowout. Now they played Georgia great. So yeah, Tennessee, they would be a 10-2 team, but of course they would pick up this win against Oklahoma and then Vandy, so that would beef up their resume. So they could be a 10-2 SEC team, obviously, that would make it once they notched those wins.
Yeah, and they better hope they get those wins for their playoff implications. Oh, that's what I was going to say too. It's looking more and more. I know there's a certain member of the show that we all love that believes there's going to be at least one 9-3 team, and multiple is likely. The longer we get into the season, and the more like chaos that's going on in the ACC and the Big 12, and I don't know that we're even going to get one 9-3 team in this year, Mark. I mean, obviously it could happen. It could. I'm not saying it won't, but the likelihood that we're going to get multiple 9-3 teams in the playoffs is looking less and less likely. Even, like I said, even one 9-3 team is starting to look less likely. But obviously, we have to see how the season plays out. But yeah, it should be interesting.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I want the committee to have to compare 9-3 teams in the two best conferences against 11-1 teams in the other conferences. I want them to have to make that kind of comparison.
Yeah. Well, it'll certainly make their seat a little hotter.
And
all right, Mark.
I want those 4 ACC teams to finish unblemished.
Oh, that would be insane. That would be absolutely insane. But yeah, I'm gonna get off here. Always good talking to you, Mark, and hopefully there's some more callers lined up for you.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay, before we get to our next caller, thank you so much for the super chats. This is very kind of these gentlemen. Actually wanted to keep me on tonight. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. So we've got Adam stopping by. And again, I do apologize that I'm late, and that did put me in an ornery mood to start things out. So we've got Adam here. Mark, in tennis, victory is based on sets won, and you can win a 5-set match, but still lose the overall games played. Okay. What if college football was determined like tennis, based on quarters won? And if the team split 2-2 on quarters, score is the tiebreaker. Well, it's an interesting idea, but it's flawed in so many ways. I don't even know where to start. Okay. The one thing that would do that would keep games interesting is that if the game was a blowout after 3 quarters, let's say tomorrow Ohio State plays Penn State and Ohio State's leading 24-0 at the end of the 3rd quarter. Well, if we're counting every quarter, then the 4th quarter means just as much as the 1st quarter did. And instead of just kind of cruising home with a 21-point win, then Ohio State would have to kick it into gear and make sure that they won that quarter as well. Unless you're just counting for the football game, then it wouldn't matter because they would have already won the first 3 quarters. I think that that's a lot of mental gymnastics for people to have to jump through to figure out who's winning games and not winning games and which games are tied. Oh, the final score broke the tie. It's an interesting little mental game, but I think it's would be, idiotic to implement. So there's my thought there. No, we don't want to be messing with the scoring system of football. That's the last thing we need to do. All right, we do have David. Thank you so much for stopping by. And David, we appreciate you being here. And thank you for the contribution for sponsoring our show tonight. Between Adam and David, we've got 2 sponsors tonight. So David, thank you so much. Go Buckeyes. Direct and to the point. And then David letting us know that the second hour is forthcoming. So, David, thank you so much for that. Everybody in the chat that wants to stick around and talk college football for an extra hour, you can thank both David and Adam. So that means whatever we'll be here for. All right. I guess that means 10 to 11, 11 to 12, 12 to 1. Keeps me here till 1 o'clock. Oh, good Lord. I don't know about that. We'll see how many calls we get. If we can keep the calls going, I will duke it out until 1 o'clock, because certainly you guys have paid up. There's no question about that. Absolutely. You've done it, but I don't know that anyone wants to hear me anymore. Like I stated at the beginning of the show, that used to be what this channel was all about. More people watched then, so maybe I should just shut down the calls and not have any calls and just sit here and rant for 3 hours. That seemed to be more successful for whatever reason. I can't really tell you. I can't imagine that it was that interesting, but I would just read off the questions and the comments and they're in the chat and take 0 phone calls and more people would watch. So don't know what that was all about, but maybe we'll start doing that next. Maybe I'll do that for like 2 weeks and see what happens. Maybe we'll do that. But for the time being, yes, as long as we get calls, and I want to keep talking, and we do appreciate both of you, as we do appreciate everyone. And in no way would I want this channel, this network, or anything else to survive based on your contributions. They are icing on the cake, or should be. But I would love to run a highly successful network that never needed a contribution from anyone. Because we had enough sponsors and memberships and all those other good things going on, ad revenue, to deliver. All right. We got our buddy David stopping by. Talk.
Yes.
Weekend.
Yes. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Excellent. Let's keep Mark going as long as we can, ladies and gentlemen. Let's fortified by double stuffed Oreo cookies, however way he needs to do it. Let's just keep him going. Shout out to David.
I must have had, I probably ate 15 before I came on. 15
double stuffed Oreo cookies. What happened to the days when Mark Rogers was eating healthy and he was on the healthy kick and all that? That was like
well, I try to eat healthy during the day.
Yeah.
Like I try to eat a healthy breakfast, and my meals I try to make healthy most of the time, but I still am loading up on the ice cream and the cookies from the store. And I went to the store tonight. I bought some double stuffs, and that was my dinner tonight. That's what I had. I had about 15 double stuffed cookies with about 3 glasses of milk.
Wow. Dinner of champions there, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes. And if we ever do that double stuff deal, people have enlightened me on how to better approach that, because my approach was just flawed in every such way.
All right. Well, let's get into some college football tomorrow. That's what you do here from time to time, I think, right, Mark? So let's have at it. Kind of looking at the docket tomorrow, I did want to talk about the possible chaos in the ACC, and I want to start with Louisville. I didn't look close enough at their schedule, but as I look at it, if they get Virginia Tech tomorrow, is that path to 11-1? I mean, I know they've got Kentucky. I know they've got, DeReal's Kentucky team was probably going to be checked out by that time. But you look at the rest of that schedule, it's fairly weak. What do we got? SMU still, I think, left on that schedule, if I'm not mistaken.
We are getting to it.
Yeah, I was looking at the rest of it. Yes, they have SMU, they have Cal, Clemson. I mean, I think the schedule is fairly doable. You look at the rest of the way.
There it is.
Yeah. I mean, if they get Virginia Tech tomorrow, I mean, Cal, Clemson, I mean, maybe that's still dangerous. I don't know. At SMU, at SMU trip's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting one for Miami tomorrow. Miami's got to go to SMU. So, that reeks of trap game possibly.
Yeah, whatever that is. But
so when you go on the road against a team that could possibly spring an upset.
Okay, that's about every game in college football. But anyway, that's not involving Ohio State or Georgia. But anyway, at Virginia Tech, they're an 11-point favorite, roughly. They've got Cal at home. Cal's a much better home team. Clemson, SMU. So these games are difficult to handicap among these ACC teams. They're better than all of those teams.
Yes.
They would win somewhere between 65 and 80% against those teams. Clemson obviously being at the low end of that, maybe 55 or 60% of the time, especially at home, maybe 65% of the time you would think. But if you ever went to probability class, then you understand that when you start to stack 60 and 70% chances on top of each other, the odds are they're going to lose a game. The odds are way in favor of them losing a game, but they're not even close.
Okay.
All you have to do is the math. If let's say they have a 70% chance of winning every game.
Okay.
All you do is add 70 and 70, and that's 49%. So they have less than half a chance of even getting by the first two games undefeated. And then you just continue to add that on. I bet if we went to ESPN or whoever does the metrics on this kind of stuff, that their chance of going undefeated is like 10%.
See, I think that, Cal at home, they're going to get Cal at home. They're going to beat Cal at home.
I guess.
Okay. I mean,
they couldn't beat Virginia at home, but I guess.
Well, Virginia's a solid team, though. Virginia's a better team than Cal. I mean, come on.
I guess.
Okay.
I guess they beat North Carolina by a half a yard.
Right. We understand North Carolina's having a struggle, but.
Yeah, I'm talking about Virginia barely beat North Carolina, who might be the worst team in the country. I'm just saying that I don't know that Virginia is that much better than Cal. They're playing tomorrow, so I guess we'll find out.
I don't know. I see a good, well, maybe a fairly decent possibility at 11-1 here, Mark. I mean,
I hope so. That's what I'm rooting for.
Well,
I'm telling you, there's about a 10% chance of it happening.
Oh, yeah. I mean, by the way, shout out Miller Moss, by the way, who's playing some decent football for them at quarterback.
I
believe that. Yeah, that's they got the USC transfer.
The last time I checked his stats, they didn't look too good.
They were decent. I mean, you take a look at it. I mean, the guy's got, 10 touchdowns, 75% completion percentage. It's not
10
bad.
touchdowns and how many picks?
Well, he's only throwing 5 picks.
10 touchdowns and 5 picks. It's, in today's age, 2-to-1
That's
ratio.
True. I mean, it could be a little bit better. Well, let me ask you this question, because I had mentioned that Braum, if they go 11-1 this year, will be a hot hire. Some people pushed back on me in the chat and said he's not leaving his alma mater.
Oh, well, nobody knows that.
But if he goes 11-1 this year, I mean, would you not leave your alma mater for a better job, which i.e. Penn State, LSU, Florida are better jobs than Louisville?
You're asking me? I have no idea. I'd have to experience that. I'd have to experience that first, but absolutely, I could see myself rather coaching my alma mater and if I enjoy the quality of life, my kids are in school,
Okay.
that's where I want to coach, and I have pride for my university and all those things.
Okay.
I don't know.
So there is not this need for coaches to continue to rise up the ranks and start at this job and go from this job and move up to a top tier job and maybe
Not for
try and.
every coach, there's not.
Okay. Okay. I
Like
thought I,
what
I thought ambition was like a thing, that mattered for some of these folks.
well, you're
Plus,
you're you're projecting your values onto somebody else, and I just refuse to do that. I don't know what his objectives are.
okay.
Maybe his objectives are to be an NFL coach. I have no idea what Jeff Brom wants to do. I'm just saying there's absolutely nothing wrong with him saying, I want to be at Louisville, and I'd rather be at Louisville than Florida. And I understand the potential at Florida is so much beyond Louisville, but
Right.
it has to be executed by somebody, because over the last 10 years or so, what's the difference between Louisville and Florida?
I understand that, but it's a
Not
lot.
much.
Getting through an SEC schedule versus getting through an ACC schedule is, a bit of a difference there too. And I'm not the biggest water carrier for the SEC, unlike some other folks, but I can look at the two conferences and see a clear difference over the last 10 to 12 years. Is that a fair point?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
I'm just,
That's an obvious point. Sure.
well, I mean, that's why I'm saying about
There's
Florida.
been a difference between the Big Ten and the SEC over the last 10 years.
Right. But the gap between the Big Ten and the SEC is a closer gap than the ACC compared to the SEC. It's a
During
closer
most
gap.
of that time. Yeah.
Yeah,
But there have been
that's right.
times when the ACC was just as good, if not better, than the Big Ten during those 10 years.
There's been a few years, but a majority of the years, the Big Ten has been a better conference over, let's say, a 10 to 12 year period than the ACC. I think that's a fair point.
Yeah.
Okay. Just putting out the
Yes.
putting out the point.
I
mean,
said
maybe
all those things. Yep.
maybe Brom sticks around. I don't know, but I think that with as many decent jobs that are going to be open there, it will be interesting to see how the offseason works for him. By the way, the one game you didn't mention, I wanted to get to in the Big 12 is Cincinnati.
Yep.
What do you think of the Cincinnati Utah tilt?
I love it. I think it's funny that we've got these kind of matchups that mean almost everything. Cincinnati's a 10 plus underdog at Utah. Yeah, I'm going to find out a lot about these teams. I really haven't seen Utah really play at all this year. A couple snaps here and there. I saw Cincinnati play Nebraska, and that was a long time ago. Really haven't watched them play. I did watch the condensed version against Iowa State.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this is where Vegas is really leaning on metrics over the results of the games, because the results of the games would tell you that Cincinnati should be able to hang in this game closer than 10.5, but Vegas knows what they're doing. So yeah, there's 4 or 5 teams in the Big 12 that are playing highly competitive games against each other. And there are no games of the year in these conferences anymore. And that's the byproduct of these conferences expanding, is that we get more big games.
Yes. Yeah. You get more big games. And, it's created a certain level. I don't want to say we have parity in college football, but there's certainly been certain programs that have come kind of back more towards the middle of the pack over the years, certain of the top-notch programs.
Yet we still have the same number of upsets that we always have had.
And we'll still have blowouts in the playoffs probably too, like we did a year ago too, probably in any case. I would say this though. I think that the Big 12 will be interesting. The more I look at it, are we sure there's not 2 teams that could make it from the Big 12, or is it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that only one team comes out of there?
I think we can get to 2 teams. We can
Okay.
do that. Let's see.
Well, we have an undefeated, you got BYU in there. They're playing,
Sure.
obviously with their record. And then you have Cincinnati, one loss. I just think that the more I think about it, I think some of these spots are going to get filled up.
So our scenario there is that I got to hit so many buttons now just to get these graphics up there. That so without dissecting the schedules, so if anybody in the chat knows these schedules off the top of their head, this is also what makes forecasting difficult in these conferences by just looking at the standings, because you don't know who plays who until you look at it. That your scenario for your best case scenario for the Big 12 is that, again, without knowing who's playing against each other, BYU goes undefeated. They just go undefeated. And then if either Cincinnati or Texas Tech does not play BYU,
they do, Mark. Cincinnati's got them on the 22nd.
Okay. How about Texas Tech and BYU?
Well, Texas Tech and BYU is next week. So that's what
they all play. Okay.
Yeah, so it's all in front of pretty much BYU.
So in that case, your best case scenario that I could see would be for the Big 12 would be Texas Tech and BYU basically split 2 games. No, Texas Tech. I'm trying to figure this out because you're going to get a 2-loss team regardless. I was trying to land with 2 1-loss teams, and I thought I could get there, but you can't you can't get there.
Yeah, because if Texas Tech already has a loss, and then, Texas Tech, even if Texas Tech gets knocked out of the picture by BYU next week and they give Texas Tech their second loss, and then they run into Cincinnati as an undefeated team, and Cincinnati only has 1 loss, they get through Utah, and Cincinnati beats BYU, and both teams have 1 loss apiece at that particular period of time after the 11-22 tilt, after the November 22nd tilt, then what are we looking at down the road for the Big 12 title game?
Yeah, I was trying to get BYU to the championship game undefeated, facing a 1-loss team, and then have the 1-loss team beat BYU in the championship game and have 2 12-1 teams out of the Big 12. But you can't have that. So how about Houston? Do you have their schedule? Let's see. I got all the schedules right here as well. Houston, where did Phil Steele have them preseason? My goodness, you can imagine.
Well, Houston's schedule is still, West Virginia.
There's your team right there.
Yep.
Houston, they've got West Virginia, UCF, TCU, and Baylor. If Houston sweeps, they play BYU, who also sweeps, and Houston wins the Big 12 championship over an undefeated BYU team. Then you've got 2 12-1 teams in the Big 12.
Yeah, talk about a schedule for Houston. They're hanging their hat on their 1 win over Arizona State because they got clobbered by Texas Tech. So it's, benefit to scheduling for Houston this year. But
my goodness, yes.
Yeah, that's totally doable for them to go ahead and get to, 11-1. You're right. If you get undefeated BYU versus 1 loss. Yeah, because if BYU goes on to beat Texas Tech and they go on to beat Cincinnati and go into the Big 12 title game undefeated, and they play a 1-loss Houston in the title game, 1-loss Houston beats undefeated BYU. That could be the path to?
That's what I was trying to draw up from the beginning, and I was just looking at the wrong teams and forgetting about Houston. So that was the path I was trying to draw up. 2 12-1 teams in the Big 12, and obviously the champion gets in, and the second team's BYU.
Okay.
And boy, now for as much as I would love to see that happen, it's not happening.
Well, see, I'm trying to get you your chaos, Mark. I'm trying to get you to your chaos level.
I agree. And for as manageable as this Houston run is. I'm just giving you the odds of these things happening, David, because I understand looking at it just like the Louisville situation, it's
Yeah.
very doable, but Houston's not necessarily better than TCU or Baylor.
Okay.
They just have a better record. That they're really not better.
Yeah,
They're really
nobody's
not that good.
well, yeah, no, I was just you look at the schedule, nobody's really impressed with what Houston's accomplished so far.
No.
I mean, once you take I mean, if you're hanging your hat on an Arizona State victory, and then when you stepped up to Texas Tech, you got clobbered by 24 points. That's, I mean, and then you look at the rest of those cupcakes they hit up this year. It's ridiculous.
Yep, but there they are.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you're right. If they get to the title game, 11-1, there's their chance.
Yes.
So
that gets 2 in for the Big 12, and then that really hurts the Big 10 and the SEC.
So Tennessee, Oklahoma, I find to be interesting tomorrow. Yep. By the way, Aguilar has been playing great football for Tennessee at quarterback.
Yep.
This year. I don't think Oklahoma is the same team, and I've watched Oklahoma play at least like 4 times this year. I don't think Oklahoma is the same team, pre-Mateer injury, post-Mateer injury. I think there's a difference between the two teams. They just don't seem to be the same football team.
I would agree.
And I really thought their path was they had to get Ole Miss at home last week with the schedule they had coming up. And I think going to Knoxville, going to Neyland is going to be the final death knell for Venable's team tomorrow.
I'm not so sure about that, but
okay,
it's a toss-up.
Okay.
Did you hear what I said earlier about? Did you hear the stat concerning Tennessee's wins this year?
Yeah, I have. I mean, if you take a look at it, I thought Tennessee really, for large parts of that game, well, actually, maybe it was more of a first half, second half game against Georgia, which a game I watched earlier in the year. I thought early on that first quarter they hit Georgia with some haymakers in that first quarter. They were bombing on them. They dropped 21 in the first quarter, and then Georgia did like an about face in the second half and was shutting down Tennessee. But then Tennessee gets the game to over, has that makeable field goal to win that game, gets it blocked, and what could have been.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. So you're not as confident that I mean, going to Knoxville's, I don't like the way Oklahoma's trending right now. That's my issue with them.
Coin flip.
Okay. You got it as a coin flip.
Yep.
I'm a little bit more 60-40.
Yeah, it's in Knoxville.
Right. I'm a little
bit more. And Oklahoma's offense has been pretty dismal. They did put up some points in yardage against Ole Miss, but Ole Miss's defense is not that good.
Mm-hmm.
And they just trailed that entire game and got outclassed at home.
Did want to get to Nebraska and USC. I have a few thoughts on that. I do think some people. I was trying to give USC some credit. That they get to the game at Eugene, and that's their chance to make a statement win. I think Nebraska can cause them some problems tomorrow, but to me, Nebraska's offensive line is pathetic. I still think Dylan Raiola holds the ball too long and hasn't shown enough growth in his second year as a starter. And I like the way the USC offense has played this year. I still think they're getting really good quarterback play. The one wide receiver is a really dynamic player. And I just think USC plays enough defense, and I just think they're the better team than Nebraska. I think they win that game. They should win that game by at least 2 scores.
USC is decidedly, yes, a better team than Nebraska. It's not really debatable. They're a better team. Now, does that mean that they can't go to Nebraska and lose? Of course, they could. They went to Illinois and lost. But yeah, they're a better football team. Nebraska is not an explosive team. They rely on one running back. He's really
Yeah.
good, Emmett Johnson, but that they never give the ball to anyone else, it just baffles me that they don't have anybody else in a running back room 8 games deep into a season that they can go to. And like you say, the combination of bad pass protection and Dylan Raiola hanging on to the football too long has been,
Yes.
reached its pinnacle against Minnesota, or at least Nebraska hopes it reached its pinnacle against them. Speaking of Nebraska, their best win, well, they got an opening night win against Cincinnati.
Yeah.
So that's looking better and better. Other than that, that's pretty much what they've done, unless I'm missing something. I don't think I am. 2 lousy non-conference wins besides that is 3. They won 2 in the Big Ten against Northwestern by a touchdown last week. And Michigan State. Yes.
They got clobbered by Michigan at home. They couldn't stop the run. They couldn't protect a quarterback. I mean, they hung in there for a little bit. They did. They missed some scoring
They were
opportunities.
kicking an onside kick with a minute
Yeah.
left in the game. So, yeah, they were outclassed, no doubt.
Yeah.
It wasn't truly a one-score game, but it was a one-score game.
True. Yeah. By the way, I did want before I get to Ohio State real quick, Mark, I want to give a shout out. Erica, I checked out the offensive stats. I really had watched Iowa only play their loss, actually, to Iowa State. Your offense is better. The quarterback, the dual threat, Gronowski's a good quarterback. I will give you credit for finally nepotism winning out and getting a new offensive coordinator and letting, Brian, whatever. So shout out to an improved Iowa offense. That being said, I still think best case scenario, Iowa's going 9-3 and missing the playoffs. But
okay, well, the best case scenario is that they're going to go 10-2 because they can beat all these teams on their schedule. But I get your point.
Yes,
9-3 is the more reasonable, optimistic final result for them. As I look up the Iowa offense here.
Yeah, I mean, Gronowski's had a fairly solid year. The tailback's been a pretty good player. It's a far better offense than Iowa's had in the past. Statistically, it bears it out. Obviously, they continue to play great defense, as Mark had said. So I stand corrected, but again, I still think at best they split the Oregon USC games and they go 9-3. Just my own personal view.
Yeah, we got into a bit of a tiff. Actually, the total offensive figures for Iowa are not good. Anyway, I'll get to that in a second. I had a bit of an argument with Corey Brada the other night because he was a bit miffed by a stat that came out and was being passed around social media, that Mark Gronowski in Big Ten play. Now, this is prior to the Minnesota game in which he threw 1 touchdown pass, but before that game, he was 0 touchdown passes in the Big Ten and 4 interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
Corey's point was he ran for 7 touchdowns. It doesn't matter how you score the ball. All that matters is that you score the ball. And I said, I understand that point. Yes, if you drive down the field, doesn't matter if you run it across or throw it across. However, good quarterbacks don't throw 0 touchdowns and 4 interceptions in the span of, at that point, I think 5 games. So that is not good. He's not played for an Iowa quarterback post Nathan Stanley. He's the best one they've had, but it's still not good. And David, they are 122nd in the nation in total offense.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought that they had improved from the hundreds. I would just say that they're finally getting better quarterback play than the dreck that they had the last few years. You're right. Since Nate Stanley. Now, I remember some of the early, obviously Ferentz quarterbacks, the Drew Tates, the Banks of the world, when they were actually getting –
Sure.
Yeah, Nathan Chandler. Hell, I go back all the way to the great Chuck Long, Mark, and Hartlaib and some of those guys.
Ricky Stanzi under Ferentz,
right.
Jake Rudock.
Yep. Right.
So,
yeah.
Stanzi being the one NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
None of the rest of them.
Well, since Chuck Long, yeah, obviously, if you go back.
Yeah, I'm talking about during the Kirk Ferentz era.
Yeah, the Ferentz era. That's right. That's correct. I did want to talk a little bit about the Buckeyes. And tomorrow, I find it interesting how Penn State's going to come out and play this one. They're obviously just playing for pride. I think to a certain extent. But you know what? It's a talented team, though. They still have a fair amount of talent on this roster, though. If you look,
they do. Yeah,
I
this
mean,
is a wild card team for sure. There is no other wild card team in America like Penn State. If they want to give it their best effort down the stretch, now without Drew Aller, nobody chuckle, nobody laugh, including you, Adam.
Yes, Adam is president of the Drew Aller fan club, by the way.
They do miss him, and they could still, even with a redshirt freshman quarterback, be if they're engaged and focused, one of the 15 or 20 best teams in America. They could be. I'm not saying they're going to play like that, but they could be.
By the way, take a look at the NFL draft. They like a lot of Penn State's roster.
Sure.
They like a lot of Penn State's roster if you take a look at that. So, I mean, they have talent. I mean, Allen's still having a really good year at tailback. I know Nick Singleton's numbers are down a little bit this year compared to the past. But, I had said something. And, Mark is one to defend. He loves his Ohio quarterbacks that go to Penn State. We've gone down that road many a time, Mark, as you know. I will say this. Adam's going to love this. I'm going to take up for Drew Aller for a quick second here. You made a point the other day, as somebody had said when they called into your show, that said that, well, if they just had a better quarterback, Penn State would be a better football team. And first of all, go back and look at some of the quarterbacks that have won national titles since the start of the BCS era. I have. There's a lot worse quarterbacks than Drew Aller that have won national championships. There just are.
In the BCS era?
Well, the BCS era through the playoff era. Take a look at the starting quarterbacks that have won national titles.
Okay. Well, I can name them right now. The
So
first
can
one
I.
that comes to mind is your beloved Craig Krenzel would be a worse quarterback than Drew
Sure.
Aller. So there's the first one that comes to mind.
T. Martin,
Yeah, I guess. Is he but worse than Drew Aller? He
Well,
could run better than Drew Aller.
Well, if you look at the NFL,
I'm not talking about NFL. I'm talking about how they played in college. Now, you could be we're all over the place, but
I know.
In taking up for you and your perspective. I don't know if you heard the other night, whoever brought up Drew Aller, I was telling them my guess is that he will earn an NFL paycheck for at least 5 years. That's my guess.
He'll be a clipboard quarterback. I think he'll be a clipboard. What you call a clip?
He will be in the NFL earning a paycheck. But BCS championship quarterbacks worse than Drew Aller. Greg McElroy.
Yeah.
Guess again. Are we combining just statistics or also these quarterbacks we're mentioning? They didn't make the kind of mistakes Drew Aller made, though.
That's true. That's what cost Drew Aller the two key interceptions he threw in his last two biggest football games for Penn State. I get it.
I think that's about Jake Coker. We could argue that one.
Yeah.
And
I mean, who was the quarterback of 03 LSU? Matt Mock, you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Drew Aller's better.
I mean,
he's better than about 5 quarterbacks, and that's about it.
Okay.
Can we think of anyone else? I can't. Certainly nobody in the last 10 years or so. He was better than, or the quarterbacks we're talking about are all better than Drew Aller. J.J. McCarthy and Will
Stetson
Howard
Bennett.
And Stetson Bennett and Bryce Young and Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson
by the way,
Hurts.
Stetson Bennett's probably also a career clipboard quarterback, but I get it. He was better in college, Although I will say, if you go back to the 21 season, Bennett had some real ups and downs through that first national title run. The second national title run, he had a far better statistical year in 22 than he did in 21. He was not necessarily really good at times in 21. In fact, you go back to the SEC title game, he laid a big time egg against Alabama in that title game.
Now, again, who's going to earn more NFL money, Cardell Jones or Drew Aller? But
Yeah,
Cardell Jones was red hot for 3 or 4 games.
that's true. He caught fire for 3 games. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you had that discussion with your Penn State people. Do they put more of the blame on Aller or Colton Nickey, the offensive coordinator, for their lack of success there?
I can't say that I really remember having that exact conversation. I would
Okay.
say that for myself,
Yeah.
not that I'm a Penn State expert, but I see him enough that my son's texting me that I'm going to miss a walk-off by the Blue Jays to win the World Series. But
Holy geez, Joe Carter.
yes, I've been watching this World Series, more
It's
baseball than I've watched in forever. I stayed up to watch 18 innings the other night.
wow.
Uh,
This one's an upset, by the way. A lot of people picked the Dodgers in a runaway to win this one, by the way.
let's see, he just texted me again. Never mind, unbelievable end of the game. So I guess the game's over. I guess that means the Dodgers, I don't know. I'll find out in due time. Maybe we'll have a game 7. Drew Aller, where were we?
Well, I just asked you your Penn State people, but more of the blame of
Oh,
the fall of the Franklin era on Aller, or maybe the OC there, because
an NFL scout would have to sit down with me and would have to show me where they let him down.
mhm.
Not that I think that they did an outstanding job developing him or calling great game plans by any stretch, but I think that was pretty much Drew Aller making boneheaded plays.
He did. I mean, I agree. I couldn't defend him after the Notre Dame game, particularly. That was just a bonehead play. Although a case could have been made that Franklin could have just sat on the ball at that point and been happy to go to overtime.
Yes.
At that particular period of time. But the throw against Oregon was bad, and he was awful for 3 quarters against Oregon. I'm putting that all out there. But I've heard a lot of people saying that Colton Nickey, the former Kansas guy, has not necessarily been, reminiscent of not necessarily the Moorhead hire that they had in the past when Moorhead probably coached the better offenses of the Franklin era.
Yep.
So I think it'll be semi-competitive tomorrow, but I think the Buckeyes will pull away probably somewhere in the 31-10, 34-10 type variety.
Yeah, let's do that because of the pick I just made. So I noticed a couple lines as I made these predictions a few hours ago. One is that Ohio State was more in that 21 range, and I
Mhm.
was seeing down to 18.5.
Yeah, I saw 19.5, but yeah.
And then with USC and Nebraska, and us talking up USC being a decidedly better team, that line's gone from like pushing a touchdown early in the week to 4.5 or 5. So people have put money on Nebraska.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm so surprised that people have been doing that, but I don't know. There may be a lack of respect towards USC a little bit there, I guess. I don't
I
know.
guess. I don't know what they're watching, but Nebraska, again, we're still waiting for them to beat a ranked team for the first time in 29 tries.
Yeah, I will probably take USC in that game tomorrow. I may be wrong. Lincoln Riley may let me down yet again. I pushed on him getting 10 points against Notre Dame. I thought his play calling at the end of that game was awful, but
Yeah.
so. All right, my friend. Well, I'll have to get back and check this World Series score. We might have a 7th game of the World Series, Mark.
Well, I would think some people in the chat could let us know what's going on. But this Otani guy, I'm
Wow.
telling you, if he was doing this in 1980, this guy
Yeah.
would be the biggest star on the sports landscape.
It's amazing. I just wondered how long he could go as a pitcher, Mark. If this thing, could last as far, how long into his career he can do both. It was always my question. It can.
So yeah, Dodgers win 3-1, game
Okay,
7.
going to his 7th game. Yeah,
He had a game the other night. This must have been in the previous round. I don't think it was the World Series in the NLCS, where he went 6 or 7 innings scoreless on the mound, like 8 strikeouts, and went 3 for 3 with 3 home runs at the plate.
it's amazing. I mean, yeah, but like I said, I just wondered how long he can both pitch and hit at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just you're just thinking that there could be an arm injury or something like that that, you know, I don't know if they're keeping him on a pitch count or something along those lines, but yeah, I mean, is there something that might hurt him there that could cost him as a position player if he gets injured as a pitcher?
Well, is he DHing?
You know, that's a good question. I didn't think he was playing the field. I thought, yeah, you know,
Okay.
that's true. So if you're right, if he's DHing, which by the way, is it long overdue that the National League got the DH mark?
No.
You were anti that?
There should be a difference between these two leagues. That was
Okay.
the charm of baseball.
The traditionalist in Mark Rogers comes out.
Well, the traditionalist is that I like the DH, but I also like the pitcher hitting. I like to see both.
Yeah,
the leagues were used to be, again, it's sports becoming generic. It's that instead of having the charm of the National League and then the American League, and when I grew up, you know, you had these old aging sluggers who would, you know, default to DHs like George Scott and Willie Horton and whomever else. And then you'd watch these National League games and you'd see these feeble hitters, these feeble pitchers trying to hit. But that was the charm of the game. And then I'd watch these Cubs games in the afternoon and there'd be more bunts and more hit and run and all that. And it was just a different game. That was the charm of it. Now you don't know. It doesn't matter if you're turning on American League game, National League game, and obviously half the games are so mixed because there's interleague play all over the place. That's no longer special. That was special for a period of time.
See, some of the changes that baseball have made have been good. Some of them have not been so good. I've warmed up to interleague play over the years. I have. You know, I know some people like the mystery of the game, and you know, as far as that goes. But I've warmed up to interleague play. I tell you, the thing that was long overdue with Major League Baseball was instant replay. I think it was needed.
Yeah, I have not watched it for 6 or 7 years, so I really don't know the impact of that. I do know that people are coming back to watch the game because of the pitch count speeding the game up. That's a good thing.
Well, we're probably going to lose people starting to talk baseball here a little bit.
That's fine.
Well, let the super chats flow. We'll continue to keep Mark Rogers on a lot longer, ladies and gentlemen.
There we go.
So. All right, my friend. Call-in show tomorrow after the games, right?
We will do it.
All right, my friend. You have yourself
David.
a good evening.
You
Take
too.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I think even when it's not obvious, we've got David on delay to a certain extent. I think we talk over each other a little bit. That's unintentional for both of us. I just think there's a bit of a lag there. All right, we're going to get to Adam's call after the super chat from, is this our buddy Joey Foster? Is this Joey stopping by? Joey says, howdy, Mark, and everyone. Let's go Mountaineers next year. They've got a date in Houston on Saturday as a 2-touchdown underdog, and I'm thinking West Virginia's record is what, 3-5? 3-5 sounds about right. I'll look it up here in a second. I'm a bit embarrassed because I always know everybody's record at all times, but I got to say, not keeping up with the sport quite as well as I typically do. But I believe West Virginia, they had the big win in the non-conference schedule against Pitt. And since then, it's been basically all downhill. And I would love to dust off this video. Not that it's all said and done, but before we bring Adam in, this reminds me that I posted a video before the season that said, Scott Frost, second tenure at UCF, Rich Rodriguez, second tenure coming back to West Virginia. And I went through the history of college football, cited 13 or 14 examples of coaches going back to their original school to coach a second stint, and showed that it never gets better. They never do better the second time. Never. Johnny Majors, John Robinson, Bill Walsh, Bill Snyder, pick your coach. They never do better at the same school. 13 or 14 of them. And I was just saying, I'm not making some kind of forecast based on what's going on at UCF or at West Virginia currently, but history is not on their side. and I had a couple of West Virginia people come after me, and I saw some of our buddies there, Justin Walker and Mountaineer Paul, posted a video basically, well, Mark's a historian and he doesn't know what's going on and so forth. And Rich Rodriguez is going to do all this great stuff at West Virginia. And he might. I was just pointing out it never, not rarely works. It never works. Now, Bill Snyder still had a respectable stint his second time at Kansas State, but it in no way, shape, or form was anywhere close to his first stint at Kansas State. All right. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. We've got our guy, Adam, stopping by. Adam, how are you?
Hey, Mark. How you doing? Happy Halloween.
Yes. Happy Halloween.
How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
Okay. I just have a few points I want to make. And the first, of course, is a concerning one that I have, and that regards your continuous support and admiration for Drew Aller. I wish Drew Aller a most successful recovery and wish him the best in his career. I did not believe, however, that he was a good quarterback, and it wasn't just the interceptions against Oregon and Notre Dame. He just did not have the intangibles. He didn't process very well. When he faced pressure in the pocket, he made some terrible throws. He just wasn't the quarterback that I thought that he was advertised as. Now, one person who has gotten very little attention, who I think is going to be a star in the NFL, is Miller Moss. I think Miller Moss has precisely the characteristics that you need to be an NFL quarterback, which is a high IQ and those intangible qualities and the ability to get the ball out in 2.5 seconds and really read defenses. So what are your thoughts on Miller Moss? I know last year I said he'd be the next Drew Brees, and I stand by that. Where am I going wrong?
So, first of all, based on what I've stated recently about Drew Aller and throughout the season, I really don't know where you're going, where I've really defended Drew Aller's play. I cited him being only better than like 4 championship quarterbacks in the last 25 seasons.
Well, where I got that statement is because I believe I heard you say that he would be carrying a clipboard in the NFL for 5 years.
Yep.
I think he will be carrying a clipboard.
Yeah.
For a company like Staples.
No, he's going to be in the NFL.
Oh, I don't think so. I think he's not. I think he's going to be an undrafted free agent and get released. But anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I am not a draft nick, nor do I make draft projections. So I could be way off base, but it's my guess. If I had to guess whether Drew Aller was going to earn paychecks in the NFL or not, I would say he will earn paychecks in the NFL. Maybe not. In terms of Miller Moss, I've not seen Miller Moss play this year. No, I have not. They played a game against Virginia and they played a game against Miami. Those were their 2 most important games this season. You know what? I did see the Pitt game, but I do not recall him doing anything that has stuck in my mind. I saw most of that game. I thought he was really good at USC. Of course, he had the one big bowl game that set him up for them to not proceed in the transfer portal to get a transfer quarterback and hand him the job last season. I thought he was unjustly yanked from the job. I think that was Lincoln Riley basically saying, possibly making a move for a number of reasons. One being that, okay, if I replace the quarterback, that shows that this isn't necessarily my fault, that it's somebody else's fault. And then secondly, that it was one of those moves just to kind of shake things up, shake up the team. And then obviously he sees what he's got in Jaden Mayava and probably wanted to see, okay, do I have a different quarterback selection to make for the next season, which that's what it turned out to be. And they're very different quarterbacks. But I can't really project Miller Moss to the next level one way or the other. I think he's a good quarterback.
Yeah, I think and I certainly respect that opinion. One of the ways that I think people go wrong is, look, you have quarterbacks like Aller, say, and Carson Beck. The velocity on their throws, outstanding. They've got the size. They've got all the physical attributes. What they don't have is the intangibles. And I'm a firm believer that to succeed in the NFL, you have to have the intangibles. Namely, you have to have a high degree of intelligence and an ability to process. I do not believe that either of them have it. I think that's what separates Moss from them, but I could be wrong too. The next thing I wanted to say is, you know what, Mark? One of the things I love about college football is that it has nothing to do with politics. Because I really hate people who talk all the time about politics and, get divided based on what they think on whatever issue. However, what we've seen recently is this idiotic governor in Louisiana, known as Jeff Landry, get involved with LSU. He should be impeached. He's an absolute disgrace. Okay? I don't want politicians getting involved in who should be fired, who should be hired. It is a terrible precedent to set, not to mention that Jeff Landry doesn't know shit about doesn't know anything about college football. So this kind of intrusion from the political realm sets a horrible precedent. I want to get your thoughts.
Well, I completely agree with you. So whatever job he has done as the actual governor of Louisiana, I have no idea what his popularity looks like there and if he's doing a good job or not such a good job. So I would not call for his impeachment based solely on this. But when it comes to this matter, yeah, he has no business. Louisiana State University is run by the way it's run, just like any other public university. And there are people in charge. It's just not the athletic director. Depending on the power of that athletic director, do we see other people get involved, other administrators, obviously, and it's got to be approved by boards and the vice president and so forth in regards to hiring a new head coach. But just to wield that kind of false bravado and power and make that kind of statement, he's just looks foolish and stupid.
I agree. And I saw somebody in the comment section telling me to relax because Louisiana is a different place and my liberal is showing. First of all, I lived in New Orleans for 4 years. I know it's different and I love it. Second, I'm not going to disclose my political leanings, but I'm not liberal. Anyway, so the last two things I'll say, so I don't take too much of your time, Mark, is I am saying it here first that there will be a huge, huge upset tomorrow. A stunning upset.
Okay.
Maryland.
Whoa.
Knocks Indiana tomorrow.
Whoa.
Yes. Indiana won by 5 points against Iowa, 20-15. Indiana is not infallible. I am predicting the upset. Maryland wins by 3 against the Hoosiers. Am I so far out there that my mental health needs to be checked, or in the realm of reasonableness?
All right. Well, on the mental health instability column, we'll check off Indiana's playing better than any team in the country right now. We will also cite that Maryland has blown 3 double-digit fourth quarter leads, but that can also be spun to the point that they were good enough to lead 3 decent football teams, namely Washington, Nebraska, and I'm forgetting the other one, UCLA, by double digits in the fourth quarter, but they blew it. They've got a young freshman quarterback in Malik Washington, and you got to think he's only getting better. He's played well, and he's only going to get better and better. A caveat to the Iowa game is that actually Indiana was more fortunate to win that game than I think people consider. I think people kind of lose that game in their assessment of these teams. That was a tie game with about 90 seconds left, and Iowa had to play the fourth quarter with a backup quarterback. They lost their starting quarterback, and their backup was completely incapable of leading the offense. He threw some of the worst passes you're going to see, missing guys left and right. Who knows? There's a play late in that game where Iowa's about to take the lead, and it's a tie game. They're about to take the lead. He can't throw a screen pass to a guy who's going to walk into the end zone for the game leading touchdown with about 90 seconds left. And then they miss the field goal that sets up Indiana to win the game. So Indiana's not infallible. I would be rather shocked. I'm asked every Saturday night, Mark, what shocked you today? And my answer is typically nothing shocked me. I've been watching this game for 50 years. Nothing shocked me. That would be close to a shock.
Okay, fair enough.
So that's a good one.
I'm going to predict Maryland's going to pull it out 27-24, but
Nice.
My credibility might be shot 24 hours from now.
No.
As far as Nebraska goes, I see, because my alma mater is playing Nebraska tomorrow. Nebraska, as long as Nebraska stays with Dylan Raiola, I don't think they're going anywhere. It's time for TJ Lateef. But I digress. Last thing I'll say is I have a very unconventional suggestion for the college football playoff. I call it the Rocky Balboa alternative.
Do you keep a list? Do you keep track of all these? Maybe we should have somebody on our fine staff here at the Voice of College Football go through and pick up on all of your calls, because we need to start tracking all of these ideas.
One of these days, one of them might hit. As they say, every dog has its day, right? So what I'm thinking is this. There's 12 teams in the college football playoff. I think we should have the system choose 11 of those 12 teams. And I think the 12th team should be chosen, for example, through a national poll of college football fans, an at-large bid. So, for example, how many times have you seen the 12 teams selected? But there's that team out there lurking at 23, 24, 25, maybe a USC, that, damn, if they were in, they could make some noise. So I advocate for the Rocky Balboa approach to the college football playoff. Your thoughts?
I'm not making the connection between your proposal and Rocky Balboa.
Well, he was an underdog, they gave him a chance.
Okay, okay, gotcha. So yeah, he was lightly regarded when they gave him a shot to beat Apollo Creed. Got it. Okay. If this was a more gimmicky sport, meaning pro wrestling or something, I would say absolutely, let's do it. That is a great idea from a PR standpoint. And I pulled up Minnie's comment only because you were railing on Dylan Raiola at the same time that I saw her comment and pop into the chat there. So I just thought that was a nice bit of synergy there. Getting back to the playoff proposal, I love that idea. Now, I would not pull the trigger on it because I believe it to be too gimmicky. But
Okay.
From the standpoint of just it being intriguing, innovative, the thing that I would be concerned. So we've seen this done in sports in much less important situations, meaning at one point in Major League Baseball, they started to have like a fan vote for the final player, and they served up like two guys, and whoever got the most votes was the last guy in the all-star team or something like that. That doesn't matter. This obviously does matter. We would have an issue, though, Adam, with the most popular team, the team with the most fans, being able to obviously stuff the ballot box.
Yeah, I think that would be a problem too. But
I like the idea. That would be interesting. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it, Mark, and I appreciate you listening to my crazy ideas. It's always great talking to you, and as always, it's a great show. So thanks so much.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks for being here.
All right, take care.
And we do appreciate everyone being here at the Voice of College Football. We got things cranked up about 10 p.m. Eastern tonight, and we did pretty well with the Super Chats. Thanks to Adam. Thanks to David in particular. Also, Joey Foster chipping in. So we are here for quite some time tonight. So we'll take your calls here at the Voice of College Football. I was headed somewhere, but we'll just take our next call. Lost my train of thought again. And if you see the beginning of this show, anybody that's still with us here from the live version, or you're jumping on and you're watching it overnight at some point, yeah, I did show up in an ornery mood. I did. I took a phone call that was quite aggravating seconds before I came on, and that's why I was like 13 minutes late. All right. We've got Keith stopping by. Keith, what's going on tonight?
Hey, Mark, how you doing?
I am doing just fine. How are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah. So I was the guy that we had the extensive discussion with Drew Aller yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah, but we don't need to rehash it. We both made clear states, and we got $1 right on whether he has a 5-year NFL career.
Yeah, if I can find $1 around here, then we'll do that.
Yeah. The thing I wanted to talk to you tonight, though, is I remember in November of last year, you were a 20.5 point favorite, or maybe it was 22.5 point favorite
Yep.
against a pretty good team. And it kind of looked like a trap game the way it played out. Fair?
We're, of course, talking about the game.
The game, yes.
Yes. Why
Yeah.
would that be? People are
Yeah.
starting to really throw this trap game term around all over the place. So how in the world would the game be a trap game?
I think you guys were just looking forward to the playoffs and thought you were going to breeze by a down Michigan.
Wow.
And
really? Huh.
yeah, you
I
were in the
hope not.
playoff, whether you won or lost. You were in the playoff.
Shame on them if
Yeah.
they looked past Michigan. Shame on them.
Yeah.
I would rather, I know a lot of fans feel differently about their team. They feel as though they would rather have some inside knowledge that, you know what, the players didn't care. Half of them were sick. Half of them were checked out, just so they could make excuses to basically come out with the conclusion that we're still really better and we didn't care. That's why we lost the game and we moved on. I'm the opposite. I would rather say that Ohio State was fully healthy, fully focused, fully engaged, gave full preparation, and still lost. And that's just the way it went. I would rather lose that way than be a quitter.
Yeah, but do you think it would be possible for Ohio State to lose the game that way against a team that couldn't pass the ball?
Wait, I'm kind of losing you because your team could not pass the ball.
That's right. So I'm saying,
Yeah.
if Ohio State had put in an honest effort
Yes.
and really aggressively tried to win that game,
Yes.
is there any way they could have lost it against that team last year? That was clearly a subpar offensive team.
Yeah, they did. I think I cannot. I watched the game one time. It's not like I went back and watched the game again. Every other game in this series I've watched 50 times practically, but I did not go back and watch that game. And no, Michigan fans, it's not because I can't bear to watch an Ohio State loss against Michigan. I've watched all of them, like, again, 20, 30, 40 times. I actually go back. This may be, I don't know if this says anything about my personality or what, because I'm an extremely optimistic fan. I never think Ohio State's going to lose games. It just doesn't even cross my mind. But when I go back and watch old Ohio State games, I usually watch the losses. Anyway, I can't think of a time during that game they played poorly. It was poorly managed, the game. The play calling was poor for obvious reasons. And I think we had this conversation recently, Keith, that I'm not the type that just picks on the play calling because I am not of the expertise level that offensive coordinators in college football are. So I rarely pick on play calling, but I just thought it was obviously trying to prove some point that they were just as tough as Michigan. And you don't necessarily have to win football games like that. You can actually put the ball in the air and throw it over the guys that are big and strong. So I think they didn't play well, obviously. They proved they were overall the better team. There's no question about that. All you have to do is look at the rest of the season. But on that day, I can't point to anything and say, that guy whiffed on that tackle. That was an Ole. Like, I thought they played rather hard and laid it on the line.
How long has it been since Ohio State's gone a whole half without scoring? Before the game. Because in the second half, you guys were shut out.
Yeah. What was the score at half? No, I don't think so.
10-10.
It was 10-10 at half?
It was 10-10 at half, and we won 13-10.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Well,
guess
call it back
Jeremiah
up
Smith
and look
caught
at
that
it.
touchdown in the
My
second quarter.
memory's not the best.
No,
So
I think you're right because I know at least that Jeremiah Smith caught that touchdown late in the first half for Ohio State. So that was the only touchdown they scored, and they missed 2 field goals in the second half. So you're probably right. Uh, I think they white knuckled that game. I think Michigan is a bad matchup for them. Uh, I'm not. I'm talking about physically and mentally now. Now we'll see if this team's different. They're going to break through and win sometime, just like Michigan did at some point. Now, obviously, Michigan was the inferior team almost exclusively during Ohio State's run, where Ohio State's been just as good basically as Michigan and a lot better last year, and they still lose.
yep.
But I think they white knuckled that game. I think that once, okay, this game is unlike any other game, as you well know. So it's bad enough when you're a big favorite and the nation's watching the game. But when you're a big favorite, the nation's watching the game, you've never beaten these guys, and it's the Ohio State Michigan game. It's the game. So, if Ohio State would have been able to come out and grab a 10-0 lead, like what was expected, then they can play with confidence and a little looser. But Will Howard throws what basically was a pick six, down to the 1-yard line, and they get behind, and then the longer the game drags, and then the game, as you well remember, in the second half, the field position played right into Michigan's hands. And I'm not saying they didn't play well, like they were lucky. It had nothing to do with luck. It was that they controlled the line of scrimmage, and Ohio State got backed up in their own 5-yard line. And basically it was them getting the ball deep in their own territory, not getting a first down, maybe getting one, then having to punt, Michigan getting it at midfield, driving, maybe not getting a first down, but Ohio State would hold. They'd punt it again. It was like a 1975 Ohio State Michigan game, especially in the second half.
Yes, and they got in the holes a lot. We would get a tackle for a loss or a sack, and then you'd be in a hole and you just couldn't make the first down, and you had to punt it away again. And that was, like you say, it was a 75 game.
Yeah.
The question is Penn State capable of doing tomorrow what Michigan did in the game last year?
Well, the psychological piece is not existent, of course. It's completely opposite. Ohio State always beats their brains in or figures out a way to win in the last minute. So the psychological piece isn't there. But yeah, I think Penn State is a dangerous football team. Yes. This is another component to this that we've seen. This Gruckemeyer, the backup quarterback for Penn State, who played pretty lousy against Iowa, but they've had a bye week. He is a highly touted quarterback. This is not his first year. He's been in the system a full 2 years now. So he's got a lot of football under his belt, albeit on a practice field at Penn State, that a lot of times you see players get better, and especially quarterbacks get better after the one game that was, his first time out, his first start, a lot of hard knocks against Iowa, playing in a difficult environment. Just think about the difficulty of you being a first-time quarterback, and the team may give up on you, and the coach got fired, and your first 3 games are at Iowa against the number 2 defense in the country, at Ohio State against the number 1 defense in the country, and then Indiana. Those are his first 3 games.
Baptism by fire.
Yes.
Yep.
But yeah, if Penn State's, only down 10-7 at half, sure. The longer they can drag it on, and keep in mind, Keith, that these games are shorter than they were 5 years ago by about 15 plays.
Okay.
Because of the new rules. So they're shorter. That plays into the ability of the underdog to pull off an upset. The shorter the games are.
Yeah. And plus, if their running game kicks in, they could cause a problem. That's what that's what we had going for us last year, is that we could run the ball better than you, and
Yeah.
and that was the difference in the game. Who who leads the rushing game wins it. Although I don't think that applies to Ohio State this year, because I think Ohio State's like 11th or 12th in rushing in the Big Ten, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah.
That is the most important. Let's say Ohio State does win the way they were expected to. They win 31-10. The most important part of this game that I'm going to be watching is Ohio State's ability to run the ball. They might be able to win the national championship without improving the running game, but it sure would help.
Yeah, it's I doubt it. I haven't seen. We went over it before, and probably 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 20 one-dimensional offense will win the national championship.
Yeah, I don't know that they're one-dimensional. It's just not a very good running game.
Yeah, but you got the best passing game in the country, I believe. Or I think you're second now. I think somebody passed you, but you're still up top too.
I'm going to find it right now. I've got the college football stats page up. I know that they're not number 2 in the country in terms of passing yards per game, but I think that that's an antiquated statistic. I'm going to look at efficiency, and I'll pull it up here in a second. In terms of efficiency, Ohio State is number 1 in the country in pass.
Number 1 in efficiency. What about completions and touchdowns and yards?
Well, I'll pull it up here. Let me get it there in just a second. They have thrown only 3 interceptions against 20 touchdowns. So there's Ohio State. Those are the rankings based on pass efficiency, which takes everything into account, of course.
Yeah, okay.
Ohio State, in terms of completion percentage, they're number 1, 79.5%. That's not bad, 80%. Yards per game, now they're not going to be very high there. They're down the list because, again, they're not throwing the ball. Florida Atlantic's number 1 in the country in passing yards. That probably just means they're losing games and having to throw a lot in the fourth quarter. Pass yardage per attempt. Now, that's kind of a skewed statistic. This is pretty funny, Keith. You see that Air Force and Navy are the 2 best teams in the country. This shows that they throw the fewest passes, but when they throw them, they chuck it downfield.
Okay, yeah.
But out of the teams that throw it on a regular basis, USC is number 1 in the country, passing yardage per attempt. Notre Dame, Florida State, surprisingly, Florida State, goodness, for as bad as they've been. Ohio State's right there. So they do throw it downfield.
What other school has the good receivers? I know it's not Indiana. It's another. It's a SEC or Big 12 school has 2 receivers that are comparable to Tate and Smith.
Well, I got to tell you, I don't think this is the school you're thinking of, because we'll catch up with wherever you're headed on that one. But Ole Miss, the receivers that school's produced in the last 5 to 10 years, they had a couple guys make catches last week, and I'm losing their names right this second, but that school produces the best catches of any team in the country almost every year. It's unbelievable. In terms of the best wide receiver tandem, while I'm thinking of that, let's see if anybody in the chat is coming up with anyone. I'm trying to think who I would put up there. Let me think. Miami would be there for me.
It might have been Miami.
Daniels. I thought Clemson was going to be there, but forget them. They had 3 really good receivers last season that all 3 came back. What
about those quarterbacks? Sorsby for
Alabama. Jeremy Bernard, Ryan Williams. I'll go with Alabama being up there. So there would be a tandem. LSU is really good at wide receiver. The USC wide receivers with especially Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane. they're really good as well.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that come to mind for me.
Yeah, but it looks like you're really far ahead in efficiency. But in some of the other categories, like I say, it was one of the other categories with it looks like, but it could be one of them. And by those statistics that you got right there, there's like 10 above Ohio State, or 9 above Ohio
That's in
State.
touchdown passes.
That's touchdown passes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So, but there was some stat like that, and they said the pass. And so you guys are in a lot of, you're still good in efficiency, but in each of the different categories, you go different, you go up and down. Yeah.
I guess they're like near the top and everything.
That you are. Well, you're top 10 right there. You're tied for 10th in touchdowns. So obviously there's like a 9 teams ahead of you in touchdowns. That's all.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
What I'm saying is, when I was going through my phone notifications,
Yep.
I saw that somebody had passed Ohio State in some receiving category. And so I thought you were near too, but in efficiency, you're still quite a bit ahead. So that's the big one, yes. And anybody can cherry pick a couple states, a couple of teams to make their team or conference look better, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The
Yeah.
Indiana receivers are good, and as Rob is letting us know, I haven't really watched a lot of Texas A&M this year, but I know Mario Craver and Ashley, I can't think of his name, something Bethel, Roman Bethel is a really good wide receiver at Texas A&M. So they've got a couple of good receivers. So I'd throw Texas A&M, Alabama, LSU, Miami, in that mix of wide receiver play, USC after Ohio State, or arguably right there with them.
Yeah. So yeah, tomorrow should be a fun day of games, though. I'm looking forward to a lot of them.
Yeah, it will be a good time. It will be a good time on Saturday. Anything
And
else, Keith?
Crane and Company came up with a term called play out games.
Crane and Company. Who's
Yeah.
that?
Bill Crane, they got an old quarterback from Michigan, David Cohn, and his brother, something Crane, Wayne Crane or whatever, something like that. But
Okay.
David Cohn coined the term play out games.
Yeah.
And so all these 6-2 teams and 7-2 teams that are going into a game, every game's a play out game for them.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
But it's not a play in game for the team that wins, because you're not guaranteed nothing if you win. You're only guaranteed out if you lose.
Yeah. Nebraska and USC, of course, is one, and Oklahoma and Tennessee would be another one, most likely. Those are the two that come to mind for me.
Yeah. Has Oklahoma only lost 2 so far?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
6-2, and yeah, 5-2 and 6-2 with those 2 games.
Okay. Good, Mark. It's always good to talk to you, and it'll be fun. It'll be fun tomorrow.
All right, Keith. Thanks for being here.
Okay.
Michigan fan at Keith stopping by. Good stuff. Let's see. We've had a Notre Dame fan, Michigan, Ohio State. Who am I missing? Somebody else? Anybody else? Rutgers. Well, whatever Adam is. Adam's all over the map with the teams he roots for. Here at the Voice of College Football, he's officially a Rutgers fan. All right. Okay. So, yes, the play out game. I like that. I was just going to say the winner stays alive game, but the play out game is better. These are the most important games in college football. Now, keep in mind that when a team is headed toward the playoffs and they lose an unexpected game, that then suddenly becomes an important game. So I'm not going to count, let's say, Ohio State and Penn State. Ohio State's the 3 touchdown favorite. They should win the game. Now, if suddenly Ohio State loses that game, that becomes a big game. Now, the name brands say that this is a big game. It was supposed to be a big game at the beginning of the year. Fox is telling us it's a big game because it's their chosen game of the week. It's not a big game. But again, if Penn State wins, then suddenly this was a big game. Get my point there? It's not like Vanderbilt, Texas, big game. Regardless of what happens, this is a big game. Vanderbilt 7-1, Texas is 6-2. A 9-3 team from the SEC may make the playoff. Probably has a less than 50-50 chance, but may make the playoff. So Texas could possibly lose this game and still make the playoff because they could beat Georgia, they could beat Texas A&M, but most likely they need to win out. Vanderbilt's got a little more cushion, but certainly it would help their playoff chances immensely if they go to Austin and win. So Vanderbilt, Texas, huge game. Miami at SMU. Miami is a 10 to 12 point favorite in this game. So again, this becomes a big game if Miami loses for a second time this season. But as long as Miami holds serve, not a big game. And of course, SMU's out. Houston, we could keep going with this. Houston's a 2-touchdown favorite at home against West Virginia. So as long as they do the expected, everything's fine. Houston moves on. And as we pointed out with a caller with David Greenshield earlier tonight, wouldn't this be something? Houston wins out. BYU wins out. We've got a 12-0 BYU against an 11-1 Houston in the Big 12 championship game. And if Houston pulls off the upset, Houston and BYU are both 12-1 out of the Big 12, and that's the Big 12's best chance of getting two teams in. Rutgers, Illinois, Duke, Clemson. Now the Duke Clemson, you would think, okay, this doesn't matter. It's on the ACC network. Doesn't matter. Clemson's lost 4 games. Duke isn't that good. Guess what? Duke's lost 3 games. However, Duke only has 1 loss in the ACC. If they get a little help, and run the table, we could have a 9-3 Duke team playing in the ACC championship game. It's not a probability. It's a possibility. All right. This Navy North Texas game's a big one. Navy's undefeated. They have the clearest path to the playoff out of the G5. Now, it's not the easiest path because they're suddenly having to play their toughest games of the season by far. Arizona State's got 2 losses. Iowa State's got 3 losses. They're pretty much toast. Louisville, 1 loss, 11-point favorite at Virginia Tech. Indiana, again, is this a big game against Maryland? No, but if they suddenly stub their toe and lose their first game of the season, well, then it becomes a big game. Georgia, Florida. Georgia's got 1 loss. They should have wiggle room with 1 more loss, but they certainly don't want to lose to Florida, their arch rival. Notre Dame, Boston College, Texas Tech, Kansas State. Kansas State, nobody really notices this at this point in the season, but Kansas State is playing much better football. They beat Kansas by 25 points last week. So this may not be the easiest of roads for Texas Tech going to Kansas State. So keep this one in mind for an upset. Texas Tech at Manhattan. Pitt, still in the running for the ACC. The ACC network hosting a couple of games with teams on the periphery. Again, nobody's thinking about Pitt. They've only lost 1 game in the ACC. Should have won that game. They had a 10-point lead in the 4th quarter against Louisville at home. Pitt is still playing for something. There's that Virginia-Cal game. Virginia, our darlings, my favorite team this year, besides Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina is my favorite team in college football. Virginia is number 2. Virginia is taking the next spot. playing at Cal. Virginia, undefeated in the ACC. Who did they lose to? NC State. You say, Mark, what? How are they undefeated in the ACC when they lost to NC State? It was a non-conference game. Interesting. Ole Miss, only one loss, playing South Carolina at home. Michigan, that's a game in which we expect Michigan to fully run over Purdue, 21-point favorite. However, Michigan cannot lose. Oklahoma, Tennessee. Okay, that's one of the, Georgia Tech. Before that, of course, they're undefeated, and they want to continue that streak and not slip up against NC State on the road. Only a 5.5-point favorite are the Yellow Jackets. Oklahoma, Tennessee. That's one of those games. Back to back, we got Oklahoma, Tennessee, and USC, Nebraska in prime time, and the loser gone, most likely. The one thing that Vegas can't get right is forecasting Florida State games. Okay. If we would pull up Florida State's schedule from last year, I don't know how many times they were a favorite and lost en route to a 2-10 season. Now this year, they pull off the big upset against Alabama. I've got to mention that, but touchdown favorite against Virginia, they lose. 8-point favorite against Pitt, they lose. 17-point favorite at Stanford, lose. Wake Forest just beat SMU last week, going on the road as a 10.5-point underdog against Florida State. Give me Wake Forest. This is a perfect example of one team that is playing to its best capabilities and another team that is playing to its worst capabilities. Wake Forest and Florida State. Quite the triple header on the ACC network. Then we got Cincinnati, Utah. I'm intrigued with that game. Really good late night game. We rarely get these important late night matchups, but this is one of the benefits of these expanded conferences going far out west in multiple conferences now, and just not everybody being packed in the Pac-12, but there being West Coast teams in the Big Ten and in the Big 12. This is what results from this, is that we've got a big matchup late night with Utah hosting Cincinnati. All right. We will throw out the call-in line. And again, do appreciate everyone being here at the Voice of College Football. And I will say that if we do not stay on until 1 a.m. tonight, I will honor the super chats in terms of length of shows, whether that be tomorrow night or into next week. We will do that. But I have pretty much run the gamut in regards to my analysis of the schedule for Saturday. And even if we looked at the standings, I can't really say that I've got much more to say. I've pretty much broken it down throughout the week in regards to what the playoff situation looks like in each one of these conferences. And if I had the time that I used to take to do all these things, got a final score coming in. North Carolina defeated Syracuse at the Dome 27-10. See that there. Bill Belichick's first ACC win. SMU and Rhett Lashley nearing lucrative new contract. Arch Manning off the Texas injury report, set to start against Vandy. Oh boy, got all sorts of calls coming in here. All right, let's do that. And since we do have some other calls coming in, personal phone calls, and nobody calling the show, Again, I will honor the time on the super chats for the extra 45 minutes or so next week. Going once, going twice, going 3 times on the call-in line that I just posted. All right. Do appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. And we will see you on Saturday night.